Hey guys, welcome back to Tierra Sur. I'm Chef Austin, and today we are going to be doing something super simple, but it's going to require a bit of technique. We're going to be doing a rack of lamb with a nice little fresh kind of beginning of spring salad. This is what we're going to be doing. We got this lamb. Sometimes we get products here in the restaurant and we want them to be a certain way and we get them a different way, right? So these lamb chops that came in are super small. I mean, I have pretty big hands, but still my hand is bigger than the whole rack. And the eye, if you can see, is also very small. So, you know, comes with the chine bone off, which is really nice if you can get it that way from your butcher, for sure. That way you can slice these into nice medallions. But like I said, the eye of this is very small, so you're not going to get much meat. And usually when we are working with just lamb chops or lamb lollipops, right, we're going to take this whole cap off. But instead, we're going to save it, and we're going to add extra meat to our lollipops. And like they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and that's kind of how this dish came up. From the pack, we're going to remove 3 things, and that's it. One is this. We can't use this, right? This is the chine bone. This is just taken right off of here. It's so then we can slice through all these ribs really nicely at the end. The next thing is attached to this cap that you see here is going to be this, I don't know if you can see, but there's a tendon right here. So we're going to take this cap off and then we're going to remove the tendon, because there is no amount of cooking that you can do to make that edible. It is basically a big rubber band. So like you see, most of the cap just peels off. You don't even really need a knife. And then when you reach this end part, I'm just going to take my knife, put it flat, press hard against the bones, put it flat so we're not wasting any meat, and take this off, right? So you can see a little bit better here. This rubber band, this tendon, I have tried. Trust me, I have tried. I have put it in stocks. It does add like a nice body to stock, but you're going to remove it. I've cooked it for 16 plus hours in a stock, and it is still a rubber band. There's no way to get around that. So the next thing that we're going to do is remove this guy right here. Sometimes this rack is really nice. He's out in the open, but usually it's kind of hiding almost like this underneath a flap, right? And you have to kind of dig it out. This is just a piece of cartilage, also going to be totally unedible. So we're going to just carefully remove that as well, trying to, you know, keep as much meat as possible. Next thing we're going to do, you can kind of see, remember how we were talking about that eye? Now that that cap's off, you can really see how small these guys are, right? So we're just going to clean this up a bit, take off any kind of crazy amount of fat that we see, or sinew that might end up being chewy later, right? And to me, this looks pretty good. Depending on what rack you get, or how this top cap comes, sometimes it can be a bit uneven, right? You can have some thinner spots like you see here. There's nothing we can really do about that. And sometimes you can have some thicker spots like down here and over here. So what we're going to do, and also to kind of help us cover that whole eye, the eye is very tender. And what we're going to do is wrap this around, and we're going to sear this off really nice and hard, render out that fat, and this cap is going to protect that tender eye, and is going to be really nice. So like on this side, right, when we turn it over, you can see kind of this fat cap over here. You can see that it's a lot more, it's a lot thicker than over here. So we're just going to try to even it out just a little bit. The other great part about that is you're going to get more surface area, right? Because you're spreading the meat out as you pound it. So we're a little bit flatter. We're a little more even. Perfect. So we'll set these aside for now. And now we're going to make kind of the rub that's going to go in between the two layers. Only because we're making a really small portion. All this is a spice grinder. You can, if you have a larger rib rack, this method works just as well, if not better. You can use like a blender or a Robocoup or a food processor or whatever you want. We're gonna do a few cloves of garlic, just a little strip of lemon zest off of our lemon. We're gonna take some rosemary. We're gonna take some mint leaves, some salt and pepper. One thing I would suggest on your salt levels here, don't add too much to your rub, to your mixture, because we are going to season the outside, so you don't want it to be super salty on the inside and the outside, right? Extra virgin olive oil. And we're just going to blend this into a super rustic paste. So that's kind of the consistency that you're looking for. You can go finer, you can go coarser, whatever you want. This is kind of what we're looking for. This is a 6-bone rack, so we're going to cut 5 strings. Cut them longer than you think that you're going to need. It just will make your life a lot easier. So we're just going to take our knife and we're going to cut down these lanes, making sure that every single one is separate. Fantastic. Whatever side was attached was the inside to your roast. That is the side that you paint, right? So this was the outside. This has that fat cap. We want that on the outside because we want to render that fat off while we're searing it in the pan. So we're going to put this guy just like this. Paint our rub on there. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, so we're just going to lay that meat over top. We're going to set out our twine here. Perfect. Okay, so here's how I like to tie things so I'm not kind of fully committed until the very end, right? So, one, we're going to make sure that our strings, our twine is through each bone. My two sides. And I go once under, and then I go twice under. And the reason for that is it creates more friction or more grip. So I can tighten and then let go, and it doesn't go anywhere, right? What this really does help with is any kind of meat that you're tying, if you have any sort of filling like we do, if you start at one end or in the middle or whatever and start tying it tight and committing and tying it tight, you're just going to either push the filling one way or push it one or the other way or push it, all over the place. So this way we can make sure that it kind of stays where we want it. 1, 2. So now we can kind of start cranking down. I like to do both ends first. That way, again, that's just all about filling. Make sure that any filling that we have kind of stays. We're just going to trim any extra strings off. You can kind of look, right? Everything is, for the most part, even, other than over here. It's just kind of the little, if you're cooking, you might as well treat yourself. So these little pieces, I'm just going to even out the roast, because otherwise, for the most part, these are just going to burn off. And while we're searing this, we can throw them in the pan, make ourselves a little snack. Super yummy. Okay, so my oven is set to about 400 degrees. The meat of the lamb is going to cook much, much slower than the tiny bit of lamb that's on the bones, right? And we don't want to burn them because it just looks bad, tastes bad. Nobody likes that. So we're going to take our foil. And just give our bones a nice little protective coating. We're going to use a good amount of oil. Earlier for the rub, we used extra virgin. This is just a blended oil, so we can use for high heat. You can use coconut oil, you can use avocado oil, any kind of high heat oil. You don't want to use extra virgin olive oil for this because it'll just burn and you're just wasting really expensive, delicious oil, right? All right, so our pan's getting nice and hot. We're basically just waiting until this oil starts to give you a nice shimmer, and we're just going to sear this, and we're going to sear it super hard, making sure that we get all sides don't be shy with the searing, right? It's going to give you color. It's going to give you flavor. And it's also going to make that kind of rib cap that we wrapped around that eye, it's going to make it even more tender. Because we do want to render out that fat, which is going to equal like crispy, juicy, rather than stringy and tough, right? All right, so we'll check on this. See some nice Maillard reaction there, some nice browning. The side of your pan, I like deeper pans, especially for this. The side of your pan is your friend, right? So now I don't have to sit here and hold this thing. So we're just going to put this on the side of the pan. So we're trying to kind of get an even caramelization. All right, so let's talk about the wine. We're going to be using the Quartet, which is our red wine blend. It is delicious. Lamb has almost a gaminess quality to it, right? And then we're going to pair it with a really bright salad. So I think it has enough tannin, has enough structure to hold up to the lamb. But it has some nice bright red fruit notes as well that we think is going to go really nice with the salad. We're also going to be adding a little bit of, now this is totally optional. I like heat. I like spice. We're going to be adding a little bit of spice to this, just a small amount of Thai bird chili, which this wine actually works out really well with too, which is super, super nice. Usually reds and spice are like a no. It's like eating a jalapeno and drinking a Coke, and it just makes everything worse, right? Perfect. So you can see kind of that nice even browning that we're getting. Don't forget about your little scraps. So our salad, super easy, super fresh. You can change the fruit if you want, but we're just going to use kind of what we have in-house right now. So one, I love this Radicchio. This is called Castelfranco. It is a varietal of Radicchio. Radicchio is a bitter green, right? And I like that. I know some people don't, but it is a bitter green. But this one in particular is less bitter than your normal purple Radicchio, right? We're going to tear that. We're going to, while we're taking care of this is now on its kind of final side, right? Kind of seared all the rest of it. We're going to shoot this in the oven 20, 30 minutes, depending on how large your rack is. And we're going to shoot for an internal temperature of 130 degrees. And then we're going to let it rest for at least 10 minutes. And it's going to carry over a bit. It's going to be medium rare at the end. Or at least that's the goal, right? Okay, so back to our salad. Isn't it gorgeous? I love it. It looks like somebody did splatter art on lettuce. It's super fun. This is a Thai bird chili. It is very spicy. Use chili, don't use chili, use a different kind of chili, whatever you would like. I'm only going to use half of this, and I'm going to slice it very, very, very thin. That's enough for me. We are also going to be using some fresh rhubarb. This is like very beginning of the season. The stuff that we're able to get from our farmers is absolutely delicious. And we are going to give it just a nice thin slice. Delicious. We're going to add some sweetness to kind of balance out some of that acidity from the rhubarb. And also kind of balance out some of that heat. So we're going to add some nice figs. We're going to kind of carry through those flavors that are in the lamb. And we're going to add a ton of fresh herbs. We're going to add a bunch of mint. Trying to make sure to not get any stems. We want it to be nice and tender with the chili. The mint kind of tends to cool things down a little bit. We're going to use some fresh rosemary as well. If you do choose to use this, I think it's really delicious. Only use it if you can get really, really fresh and rosemary tops, like the tips of the rosemary, because those pieces are much more tender and not woody. Some tarragon. If you do add strawberries to this would be another great one. Tarragon and strawberries is delicious. That is the base of our salad, right? And we're just going to set that aside in the refrigerator. We're just going to dress it with some lemon juice, some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I think all the ingredients being in season They kind of speak for themselves, right? You don't have to make some crazy vinaigrette. I mean, you can, but you don't need that. They don't need to hide behind anything. They're just delicious on their own. Perfect. He's reading about 130. So we're going to take it out of the pan onto the cutting board. And we're not going to tie this. We're going to let that rest. Another tenderness. If you cut into it now, it's just going to juice everywhere. Your meat's going to be dry, all your hard work. You're going to cry. It's terrible. We're going to take this foil off as well. Oh, we're going to take off these strings. So unless you have some magic, like meat glue or something like that, your cap is going to, sometimes it'll stay on, but it's pretty hard. Meat has rested. We're just about there. Let's make our salad. So we've already kind of thrown all of our herbs, our greens, our chilies, our fruit, all that good stuff in here. It's all mixed up. Next, just a little pinch of salt, some black pepper, some extra virgin olive oil, and then that lemon that we zested earlier. We're just going to take a little slice from. Right on top. Give it a little tossy toss. Take our salad. You can plate this any way you want. If you don't want to deal with having to lose that kind of cap, you can just plate it like this for your guests. Or like this, or however you'd like. You can keep the whole thing together. I am going to cut these into little lollipops. Ooh, those came out perfect. But I'm just fiddling because I don't want the bones to kind of cover up that really nice salad. I'm going to finish it with a little black pepper, a little salt. And that's it. Just super simple. Really nice, tasty, bright. Okay, let's dig in, right? Who are we kidding? They're called lollipops for a reason, right? Yum. Cooked perfect. That's nice and rendered on that cap. Yeah, I really like the kind of the duality of this. You have super rich, savory on one side, super bright, a little acidic, a little heat. That mint comes through really, really nicely, kind of cools that heat down. I love the Thai bird chilies just because I love that flavor. It's not overly hot, but that flavor really, really does come through. It hits all the points that you need it to. Anywho, I really hope that you try this one at home. Really nice and light and bright. We'll see you soon.